Today is the day, although you wouldn't know it because all the news has come out in the previous weeks. Today is the official day that NBA teams can begin signing free agents and contracts. So cool. Congratulations to them, even though everything really feels like it's already been done.
I'm really happy for all the social media managers running team accounts today because I'm sure they got some quality memes and stuff ready to go and fired up. So, for them, it's cool. You get to have a little fun with it today as it goes official.
Yeah, my first would be listen, this is why I need to get hired, right? OKC, hit me up. My first one would be I Hartenstein this move.
Yeah, no. I literally in my head for the Sixers and the Maxey extension, I was like, Tyrese Maxey, more like Tyrese Max contract.
Yeah, or Maxey contract. Just boom, right there. That's what I'm saying, man. It's easy stuff. So yeah, obviously that's what a lot of what we're going to talk about today is our trades and signings that we do from the past few days that are becoming official, and ones we don't like because there are some confusing things. I was, again, kind of just alluding to it a little down the line. I was a little bit confused about this I keep saying Chris Paul situation with the Warriors and now the Spurs, but we can talk about that in a little bit. We did want to talk about a little warm-up jumper, which is Kemba Walker is officially retiring from basketball.
Yeah, I believe it was 13 seasons he officially played. He's only 33 years old, and that's what's crazy. And I think that's what people have, or what we've probably forgotten about, because we don't talk about Kemba in the injuries, what could have been category, when they realistically, his knees have just kind of failed him here in the last few years. And I think that probably prevented a much smoother second half of his career. I mean, even going back to, obviously his Charlotte career is iconic, and we'll talk about that in a second. But even with Boston, that was such a good move for Boston at the time. And already paid instant impacts. He goes out there and has a hell of a first season. He's an all-star that first year in Boston, and then he just couldn't stay healthy the rest of his career. And it's just so unfortunate because Kemba was always one of those guys that you just enjoyed rooting for. He's a competitor. He's a guy who got better every single year, never was in crazy headlines. He just, put his head down and went to work. And I think that's one of the, he'll be one of those quiet greats, obviously a little more loud for Charlotte. That's where the majority of his career was spent, averaging 19.3 points for a career, three-time All-Star in Charlotte. He is the Hornets' all-time top scorer. He's in the franchise's top 3 in games played, in assists, in steals. He is a Charlotte legend. There's a strong argument that he's the best player to ever put on the Hornets uniform. I'm looking at their all-timers, and you got Alonzo Mourning back in the day, of course, was really great for them. But even with him, the majority of his time for me, I'll always associate with Miami. Kemba embraced being a Hornet. And I think that's a franchise that not necessarily a lot of guys have embraced being like that, but I for sure know that I will always associate Kemba Walker and Charlotte as he's the top dog there, in my opinion.
Yeah, completely agree. He had 19 total 40-plus point games, and obviously most of them are with Charlotte. Had one with Boston, one with the Knicks too, surprisingly. Actually had 2 with Boston, 1 with the Knicks. And what took me by surprise, I figured the number would be higher just for how many seasons he played. He had 3 total triple doubles. 2 was with Charlotte, 1 was with the Knicks, actually. The Knicks one was a 12, 10, and 10 kind of deal. But either way, obviously a legend, and I know for me personally, one that I was always using in NBA 2K. He was one of my go-to teams because not to dump on the Hornets, but we would always be oh, you can't pick one of the really good teams. You got to play as another team. I'm cool, I'll be the Hornets, and I'll actually just run up the score on you with Kemba. That's how this is going to go down. So yeah, happy for him. Obviously, wish it didn't end the way it did because, like you said, the first thing I thought was, I don't feel like he's that old. And, we've got guys like Chris Paul, guys like LeBron James, who now blur that line of when it is supposed to end, you know, because
33 was crazy. Like I had a really that did surprise me only because and I guess it shouldn't be as Kemba aligns like age-wise with us, right? I mean, we were in college in 2011 when he won that championship with UConn, and that of course is the other signature Kemba moment, you know, that step back shot against Pittsburgh. But
then
like what was crazy about that run too, and I think it's lost because obviously that was the Kemba breakout. Like that made him a star. He was a
yeah,
household name after that run. Like he was no doubt the best player on that team and finished it with a championship. What people forget about that season is UConn was not going to make the tournament if they didn't win the Big East, which was loaded that year. Like that Pitt team they beat was incredibly good. DeJuan Blair was on that team, I believe, who obviously ended up going pro there for a little bit. Kemba got hot at the perfect time of year and then just had the heater of the century. Like, I mean, you want to talk about turning it up when it mattered. Like that whole tournament, he showed out. And I mean, that kind of paid. It was him, and then Shabazz Napier had a similar run there at UConn a few years later. But like that gets lost. That UConn team was NIT bound if Kemba doesn't go crazy and they win that tournament. And then they not only got into the NCAA tournament off that, they won the whole thing.
it's just wild to me that him and Paul George are the exact same age.
Yeah.
And obviously, we'll talk about the Paul George stuff, but one is getting a 4-year contract and the other one's retiring from basketball. So,
Yeah. He scored 130 points in that Big East tournament. They won 5 games in 5 days. Like, you want to talk about running the gauntlet?
that's running the gauntlet. But that's like, listen, like not saying that that happens a lot, but that's how legends are made, at least in, you know, in tournament play for college. That's how it happens. There's always somebody that kind of shines out a little bit on either a smaller team or bigger team and becomes the, you know, darling of the whole thing.
Yeah, and he did just like he got better every year. You know, his
Mhm.
rookie year wasn't anything to light the world on fire. He only averaged 12 points, but you know, every year he consistently improved. And he was just a guy that you trusted in the clutch. But you're right. Like I'm still just I'm stuck on 33, and it makes so much sense. Like he only had 2 seasons with Boston. He had that stint with the New York Knicks, which you mentioned. I think he played like 30 plus games there, and then he played with Dallas where he only had 9. He played 9 games, and then he's been in Europe. Like he was over at AS Monaco last year, and I remember because I don't think it was Players Tribune, but somebody did a profile on him like relatively recently and talking about the adjustment to going to Europe. And it's like, yo, you were one of the better players in the league not that long ago. That's just, you know, but that's kind of who Kemba is, right? Like he never let the ego get in the way. Like he
No.
always was just put his head down and went to work. And I mean, he's already got the Hornets have lined him up and he's working with their staff now, as you would figure. Like that was my first thought is I'm like, Charlotte's got to find a role for him in that organization. You know, when you talk about adding that legitimacy and, you know, as they try to build out this team here, you know, with the next generation, with Brandon Miller and, you know, hopefully with LaMelo Ball, assuming health, you're going to want to see, you know, where Kemba's a good guy to have around. Like, I think he's pretty respected around the league.
Yeah, completely. And I would be more surprised if they didn't do something with him, right? Like that would be more alarming, I think, in that scenario. But yeah, good to him. You know, capping it off a great career, and I'm sure, you know, we'll see what he does with the front office and you know, behind the scenes stuff now.
Yeah, like if nothing else, playing a role in player development, like there's got to be something there, and it seems
Yeah.
like there's going to be. So it's good news all around. And again, salute to Kemba Walker on an excellent NBA career. Welcome everybody to the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. My name is Kevin Rayfuse. Joining me as always, my co-host Justin Kuzart.
I'm feeling marvelous.
Okay, good. I'm really happy for you. I'm glad you're feeling marvelous. I'm glad whoever signed probably a big contract is feeling marvelous. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna aim for the moon here and go with the biggest contract and say, is it Jason Tatum?
It is not Jason Tatum. I'm trying to pull up the contract deals because you're not wrong. It's not a big contract though.
I mean, every contract in the NBA is big now, bro. We're in a new era.
So this one, I'll give you the deal. It's 2 years and it's under 15 mil.
Okay, so it's not Harden. Harden signed a 2-year deal.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not under 15 mil. It's not Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris signed a 2-year deal, but it's not under 15 mil.
This guy also tweeted afterwards that he was in the mood for a cuisine that is specific to this
Oh,
city.
okay. All right. I did see the second one. All right. Well, welcome back to Philly, Andre Drummond.
Yep.
We'll get into Andre and I listen. I know we're both Sixers fans. The Homer hat will be on a little bit, but that's also because the Sixers did make probably some of the more impactful moves, I would say,
Bigger
in
ones
this
for
free
sure.
agency period. But we're going to dive into all of them coming up. There are it feels like every team has made some sort of impactful move here. So we got a whole lot to talk about. Justin and I, like he mentioned in the intro, we're going to talk about moves that we're kind of confused about, kind of group them into ones we don't like as much. So stay tuned for that. Of course, love who's balling, who's fallen coming up as well. Should be a little Pistons talk in there. And then we'll play some Immaculate Grid at the end of the episode. We're not going to speed run this week. I promise I don't have anywhere to. You can't see because I have the hat on, but well, the reason why I got to brush this over. Good Lord, it looks terrible. That's why I keep the hat on right now. I had to run out and get a haircut last week, so that's why we were running through. I love my barber. I've been going with the same guy now for 2 years since coming back up here, but just the way work is right now, and I know everyone is super invested in this saga for me. But I can only really go on Saturdays. He only cuts between Wednesday and Saturdays, and Wednesday through Friday, I'm pretty busy now with work, just being the way it is over the summer. So,
Happens.
you know,
Yeah.
got to do what it do sometime. It was getting a little ridiculous.
I feel you, man. I get it. I don't like getting my hair cut ever.
Really?
Yeah, I just feel like a groomed poodle at that point. Like
Wow.
I don't want my hair done, but I also know that I'm at an age where like the receding hairline with long hair looks bad. So I usually put it off for like as long as humanly possible. And then like it becomes a problem and I have to go get it done and then I do. But usually it's kind of just a random point throughout the week. I finally go, all right, I'm annoyed with my hair. I'm just gonna go get it cut.
I've got 3 reactions to that. Number 1, I'm just laughing at the image of picturing you as a poodle right now getting groomed.
Yeah.
Number 2, I'm gonna digitally fight you when you're talking about your receding hairline with your golden flow that you have right now. Like, buddy, buddy,
Listen, it goes back,
back of the
man.
line, Justin.
The
Back of the
hair's like
line.
back here, dude.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it
Back
goes back.
back of the line. I'm gonna get married before mine goes at least. And I can grow the beard. So I'm genuinely not worried about when it goes, it goes.
Right,
But
right.
like if I couldn't grow the beard, then I'd be a little more like
Well, that was my fear for the longest time. I mean, the beard thing is only a few years old that I've actually been able to do it. So like I was getting a little like, oh man, with the hair going back, I got to go short and I can't
yeah.
pull this beard out. Like we might have a problem.
The third thing I was gonna say is I really it's funny because you started right as I was about to say when you were giving your haircut opinion. I was gonna follow up with going, man, I think getting a haircut is truly one of the best feelings as a dude you can have. And then you just like you threw me off so bad. You're like, I hate getting my haircut. It
I hate it.
stinks. And I'm like,
I hate it.
what? I love it so much, man. And I get the risk. I also like do beard stuff too. So maybe there's like, I like the hot towel, all that fun stuff. But
I want to do a whole beard thing. I haven't yet. I just don't feel like mine gets long enough or like thick enough that like I really need to do something crazy with it cuz it like on the side it's still pretty thin.
yeah.
But I also this is a part that's really going to throw you off cuz like my hair's a little bit longer. I can't go to a barber. I've tried. I've gone to barbers and been like just like, you know, two on the side, faded up, and then like a scissor cut on the top. For whatever reason, either I'm relaying it wrong or barbershops can't figure it out. I get a freaking bowl cut if I do that at a barbershop. But if I go to a salon, it's thin, it's faded, it's thin, it's perfect. There's no problem. So I just go to a salon now. Like I'm
Oh,
like, all right, well, whatever.
I'm not hating on you going to a salon. Listen, get your hair cut by whoever's going to cut your hair the best. Like
Well, it's like I want to
guy,
do it. I
girl.
want I want to do it at a barber because like that's like that would be fun. But like the barber shops just cannot figure out my hair.
Going to the salon is fun too. I don't care. Like it is 2024. Like get your hair cut by whoever you want to get your hair cut
Well,
by.
yeah,
Like
but you do get looks from like people that are going through 2-hour hair dyeing salon
what's that got to do with
days.
you?
Well, they're like, oh, who's this like random dude who's gonna be like, listen, I bet the person that cuts my hair, I bet she loves it. I'm like a 45-minute haircut.
Just because somebody's getting their hair dyed for 2 hours, like, what they got to look at you weird for? That's a
Well,
you
no,
problem.
because you're making a ton of money off of it. The people cutting hairs are making a ton of money
Oh,
off that,
dude,
where I'm
it's
a quick haircut.
crazy. Like, I
Yeah,
didn't realize, like, if you do the full like, and it's because one of there's a girl I went to high school with who's a barber, or I
yeah,
guess yeah, she owns her salon now, but she was like talking about like, oh, get a balayage or whatever women get in their hair where it's like different colors and it's weaved and
yeah,
all that stuff. Bro, it was like $350. And like,
yeah.
I don't even think she's like overcharging her. That's ridiculous. I'm just like, yo, it is that much? Like, that's what it costs to do all that? I have no like
And
I
that's what I'm
spent
saying.
50.
And that's what I'm saying is I go in, I get my hair cut, it's like $35 and I'm out of there in 45 minutes. So I feel like when I'm there, I'm like, I'm such a cheap haircut. Everyone here hates me. Like,
You tip 20% though, right?
yes, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the one thing. That's where I always make it up. It's like, look, I'm a cheap cut, but I'm gonna tip you every time. Like, you're gonna
That's what
get
I'm saying.
your money's worth out of it.
Yeah, get a good you could flip like 7 of me in the time that someone's getting this
Well,
crazy hair stuff done.
and the whole time they're getting dyed and stuff like that. Like a lot of time they're just sitting there. You're
Yeah,
not really they're not actively like standing behind you for 3 hours. Like you got to let that
right,
sit.
right, exactly. So, either way,
Me talking about letting the hair dye sit with my long, luscious locks right now.
yeah, yeah. So, there's your drive and dish, NBA haircut breakdown for
Yeah,
you.
listen, get you a podcast that can do everything. And if you
Mhm.
think we can do everything, leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them here on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find us.
And we are on YouTube. You can follow us there. Just search Driving Dish NBA podcast. You can subscribe. You'll get notifications when new episodes are coming out. Obviously, towards the back end of the episodes, we try to sneak in some immaculate grid. So that is a visual thing you can check out there, or just keep listening along on your podcasting platform.
Shout out to Player FM as well. We've been getting a lot of hits there. So I miss them in the where you get your podcast from. Definitely
Mm.
shout out to everybody who's tuning in on Player FM as well. And now a word from our sponsors.
So, free agency moves we liked, moves we don't like. Do we want to start with positive or we want to be negative people
Yeah,
today?
come on. We all you know how it goes with balling and falling. We always like start with the good with the bad. I know this
That's what
isn't
I'm saying.
balling and
Let's start
falling,
with
but
the
like
bad before the good.
I want to start. You want to start off dumping on somebody? All right,
Oh
fine. You
yeah.
want to go ahead, dump on somebody. Who you
All
got?
right. Freaking Valanciunas, what are you doing going to the Wizards for
He
30
cashed.
million?
He cashed. That's what he did. Valanciunas was on that graphic where they were talking about he was a realistic Lakers target and that LeBron was like really going to try to recruit him. And then the bomb came out that he signed a deal with the Wizards. And I said, go get your money, Jonas. You earned it.
Dude, I don't know, man. Like I get it, but like he was one that I was like, he can move the needle for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Lakers being one of them. I told you off the mic, selfishly, I wanted the Sixers to explore it. Just because I think he would have been he's so underrated in the league these days, it feels like. And then just going to the Wizards feels like such like a like deflating the balloon moment.
Yeah.
Um
I mean, it'll help the Wiz short term for sure. And I mean,
Sure.
that's the thing is like the Wizard doing this. Um, they're not fully tanking, even though they kind of are by just results so far. But I mean, look, they took Alex Sarr number 2 overall, so I think
You
that'll be
wanna
good to get a quality big to learn from as well, help him
You know
adjust.
though, they might have themselves a big 3 with Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, and Valanciunas now.
And no of those players all have in common. I all want them to get traded to contenders.
Right,
Every
right,
single one of them.
right, dude, that's so
But they
weird
all
to
got the
me.
bag. So like, listen, I get it. Go play in Washington, get the bag. Like
Brogdon's still there too, right? No?
Brockman just got there though, right? That was via trade.
I think so. Yeah, I think you're right. Either way, I was just because the roster's still I'm just looking at Google's roster, so I wanted to make sure. But either way, yeah, I mean, sure, go get your money. It just felt like he was one of those players I'd starred on the side to be like, wherever he goes, that team is now gonna be like a thing to really, really look at and be worried about. And then it was the Wizards, and it was like, oh,
No, I mean, I'm with you. It makes sense from a like X's and O's perspective. The Wizards were really bad at rebounding last year.
sure.
Valanciunas is going to help them out. The other reality too, though, and where I will
This
give the Wizards and Jonas a little bit of leeway here, that's a pretty tradable contract come deadline. Like 3 years, 30 million is not a lot of money for, like you
I
said,
agree.
a pretty good player.
And a player that has played in every play-in tournament. Uh, so it's worth mentioning that he needs to keep that streak going.
Know what else is hilarious? There is definitely a listener out there who has been waiting for a week and being like, man, they're going to dive right into Paul George right away. I can't
And
wait to
we
hear these two
started
pop
with
off. And we
Valanciunas.
started with Valanciunas and the Wizards. Like, what a podcast.
Listen, you never know where we're gonna go. The other one I hate, Nicholas Batum going back to LA.
I hate it selfishly. I
Yeah,
get why
yeah,
he did it. Like
yeah.
it's strictly a happy wife, happy life situation.
My
Like when Batum got traded,
he
there
didn't
were
want
report
to.
like because he's obviously nearing retirement age. So you're looking at where do I want to live for the rest of my life? And so his wife like was hesitant about even going to Philly in the first place. Now, obviously, I'm super happy that happened and that he had a great
Right,
half a season with us. He had a legendary
right.
play-in game against Miami. I'm also upset because I wanted him back. This kind
Yeah.
of like we're not going to dive fully into the Sixers, but we kind of are because that swung my off season a little bit. I love everything they did, but like a big part of that was Batum coming back and playing that forward. Like his passing is so key to that lineup, and now he's just going back to the Clippers, which like again, I understand he didn't really want to leave in the first place. Go sign your 2-year deal, play some hoops. Like he's earned that right. But yeah, selfishly, I'm bummed. I wanted Batum back big time.
Yeah, that's why I have it under my I don't like as well. Like, I had a buddy text me after, the Maxey contract, all that stuff, which we will talk about. He was like, "What do you think we need still for the Sixers?" He's like, "I'm thinking like a 3-point shooter, some D, maybe a good passer." I'm like, "Oh, you mean like Nicholas Batum, who just signed with the
Like literally, yeah.
who literally is all of that in one player and just left." I know he's older. It's another player that actually played a good bit with Kemba Walker too. So yeah, man, I don't like that one. Trying to see if I also just so because I know we're gonna talk about the Sixers stuff for so long, I'll just take us away for it for a sec. I'm not the biggest fan. I am a big fan of the Warriors side of this getting Buddy healed. I'm not a
Mhm.
big fan of Klay Thompson on the Mavericks. And I guess that's why I'm kind of in a weird in between. And I know it's a few different moves, but the whole thing clumped together is like I like some of it. I don't like the other locations.
Yeah, so let's start with Dallas, obviously, because that's a big year deal or big deal with Klay Thompson agreeing to the sign and trade, going to Dallas, 3-year deal. Good for Klay. He's getting paid. He said his goodbyes. Obviously, this is a Dallas team that was in the finals last year, so he gets to team up with Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. So a lot of star power off the rip. My
Yeah,
problem is, Justin, is that I just think Klay is washed, and I don't think Dallas is a place where, like, Dallas needs shooting. So in that sense, like, you do
that
fill a
helps.
need there.
But
They
they also
also
need defense.
yeah, well, and that's my thing is so like part of this, the ancillary move that comes as a consequence of this is they lost Derrick Jones Jr. Derrick Jones Jr. is going to the Clippers, and they said that was their one big target to re-sign. And now Derrick Jones Jr. is interesting because we saw it in the finals where a little bit like you
Yeah,
can kind of exploit him offensively. Like there are
sure.
you can drift off him a little bit and not really, dare him to make shots. To the other token, though, you're right. Like he was one of their best perimeter defenders last season. And so, Klay historically has been one of the best perimeter
Well, he's
defenders in the
slowing
league,
up.
but I think we know that's gone at this point. Like that to me is the biggest reason for Klay's dip is he just can't play defense like that anymore. Um, and I mean, look, he's going to get opportunities here. Like again, I don't think the shooting totally vanishes, but yeah, it would have made like Orlando would have made more sense as a destination for me. Where it's like if you're gonna pay Klay, I can get it a little more because you can front load it a bit. I just don't love it for the Mavericks. I really don't.
Yeah, I also, I think it might help them. We joke about it all the time with the ISO ball, but now with a 3-point, another 3-point shooter that you can kind of rely on to potentially pass out of those, pick and roll situations where maybe the layup shot for Luca or Kyrie isn't there. You do have an outlet now that maybe you feel a little more confident in relying on, but yeah, man, I saw that. I'm like, it's a team that doesn't really like to pass the ball. His defense is slipping a little bit. Now, from the Warriors side of things, Buddy, I think, is a great kind of replacement 3-point shooter in that aspect.
Yeah, they have a good mix because it's not just Buddy in my eyes. Like
Kyle
going to get
Anderson.
Buddy healed, but it's also like it's bringing D'Anthony Melton in on a 1-year
Mhm.
prove it deal. Like again, it's a little tough because I don't love all the moves the Warriors have made in a
That's
vacuum.
fair. That's fair.
I kind of want them to take a swing here still, honestly. Like to me, the Warriors, when they didn't get Paul George, because I think that would have been incredible for the Warriors. I think him and Klay, or him and Steph, I should say, would have been a perfect fit. I think they should really be trying to swing for Markkanen. Like that's the move I make if I'm the Warriors. The Warriors, and I love Melton on a prove it deal because look, D'Anthony Melton was really good in Philly. He was really good in Memphis. It's just the end of the story with the Sixers is that he couldn't stay healthy. Like that back injury was just lingering the whole time. When he played though, he was extremely productive for us. Like he was, I
Mhm.
would have loved to have him back, honestly, on a prove it deal. And so in that sense, like, yeah, he's going to get great looks, obviously playing next to Steph. And so that'll really help them out.
Yep.
I just, yeah, I don't know. Buddy, I also have the sour taste in my mouth of the playoffs, which probably doesn't help. Like I thought that was such a good opportunity for Buddy Hield to show out. And he was borderline unplayable for most of that Knicks series. Like he had one good game. But it's the vacuum too. It's going out and getting Kyle Anderson. Like I do think Kyle Anderson was a good pickup for them. He'll play a little bit of defense there on the perimeter. Um, he has such a unique game. And I say that every time I watch Kyle Anderson highlights, but you know, he can obviously hit the 3-pointer. I say his game is unique in the sense that it feels like he's moving slower than everyone else on the floor. But he gets to his spots really well. And so the point is though with the Warriors is those are all players that fit. My issue is I don't think this team is much better than it was last year. Like I kind of think they're in the same place. And so if you're going to really contend again around Steph, that's where I think it's like, no, go all in, swing for Markkanen, and then you can try to like really make a run at the Western Conference. Because just right now, I see a few teams better for them. Dallas going back to them, I think that this shows that they are all in, like going to get Klay Thompson. Like that shows, hey, we're trying to run this thing back. We don't think it was a fluke. We want to go out and win. I don't know if that's the formula. That's my big question.
So this is perfect because this gets me back into a rumor that was going around a little bit with the Warriors and would have landed them another name. Now we can debate if we think that name was good or not, would have been good or not. But so the Warriors released Chris Paul on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Paul then goes to the Spurs. We can talk about that end in a second. Apparently, the Warriors rejected a trade that would have sent him to Chicago. I think Bleacher Report put this out. It was a trade involving Wiggins, so we can take that into account too. It would have been Wiggins and Chris Paul. Maybe there's more stuff going on there. But essentially, Zach LaVine would have ended up in Golden State. They didn't feel, at least according to Bleacher Report, that it was an adequate amount for a deal, so they said no, and Chris Paul essentially walks, which feels weird. Like at least get something for him at that point. And so maybe the side is you didn't want to let Wiggins go, which again is understandable. But yeah, like that would have at least landed them somebody who is a star. I know Zach LaVine's trade value is like insanely low now. They were talking about Chicago's trying to like pair a first round pick with him so that they can send him. So maybe the Warriors were like, look, if you got nobody on deck, even sending Wiggins is too much to get him back. You know, maybe it's Chris Paul and something else. But yeah, it felt weird to just see the Warriors, who, like you're saying, need to add add something to take them over the top again or get them close to that contention again. At least from an outside perspective, they might think they're already there. But Zach LaVine could have been something that would have done that.
Brian Windhorst had a really good talk the other day, and I think this is probably an impact of the second apron, honestly,
Okay.
because it came up in the context of Brandon Ingram, because Brandon Ingram
Yeah.
is going to get a max contract and is probably one of like him and DeRozan and Levine too are
Yeah.
probably the biggest like names that are still out there and look to be on the move somewhere. The problem with the
I
second
would.
apron is when you get there, you are so capped. Like you can't do anything when you break that second apron.
Yeah.
And so if your max players aren't playing like max players, you're just crippled
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
And I think we're starting to see that a little bit with like Brandon Ingram and with who had just a kind of a disappointing playoffs last year. It's like, look, if you're going to push your chips in for Brandon Ingram, he better play like a max player, and you better be confident he does, or you're just going to totally doom your franchise, essentially, the way this is. Like, and again, this is all a relatively new cap situation. So I think that as GMs get more comfortable with it and start to feel their way around a little bit, there will be that time, or maybe there will be more. But yeah, I think this is a valid question. And I think that hangs over LaVine. It's like, look, Zach LaVine is unquestionably a good NBA player who can help a lot of teams, but he deals with a lot of injuries and he's on an extremely expensive contract. So at that point, it is way more inherently risky if you got to run the risk with that second apron. And so,
and what's worth mentioning too, maybe that second apron part is a part of the conversation on the Chris Paul side of things too, money wise, because he had until, I guess, technically tomorrow, for a deadline, and then he would have hit his 30 million salary guarantee if he was still on the Warriors. So there is also that. Is Chris Paul playing like a $30 million salary player? We'll leave that debate up to someone else, but that probably played a part of this.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, with Chris Paul, I guess in the sense of why they didn't do a sign and trade if it wasn't going to be LaVine, I just don't think there's not enough. Like, I don't think you're really getting anything to justify. And I know it's like, well, it's better than letting him walk for free, but I don't know.
It might not anymore now with this, like you're saying, money situations. It might be a good thing to let him go for free and just get get under certain thresholds that you need to, so that you can either re-up the next year or maybe in the middle of the season start doing some stuff if you think you have a chance.
Yeah. That said, Chris Paul in San Antonio, holy crap, they finally got Wemby a point guard. They're going to get him somebody that can get him the ball. It's amazing. Yeah. It's brilliant. I think going out, like, look, Chris Paul is not the Chris Paul of peak Chris Paul, but he's still an excellent point guard. Who's going to come in there. It's on a 1-year deal, so it's super friendly for San Antonio. And just, I think from the development aspect, and almost like being a hybrid coach as well with him and Pop, like with just like him going to mentor Wemby is such a like good end career game for Chris Paul. Like, this is such a great place for him to be right now. And so, yeah, I only love that move for San Antonio. Like, this is such a massive win for them, for me.
Yeah, and last year averaged career lows in points, career lows in minutes per game. But again, you got to remember where he was. I mean, you're behind Steph Curry. Of course, you're not going to play as many minutes. And so, yeah, I mean, I think you do have to take some of the concerns from last year into account. But I also think, it's going to be his position essentially. And
you're not contending. You're not really worried about, like, there aren't major expectations.
Man, I don't know, man. The Spurs might be looking at, like, let's make a playoff run next year. You know what you got with Wemby. Now you got Chris Paul. You got some guys developing around everybody. Like,
it's more of Wemby. It's Wemby. Yeah. Wemby just might be enough to get him there by himself. Like,
well, look, let's get into a play-in game. Let's get crazy. Let's see what happens here.
I don't think that's going to happen, for the record, just because of off the strength of the Western Conference. Yeah. But I like this move a lot, and it could be like they could sneak into a 9 or a 10. I don't see them like pushing. The other thing that I loved was all the Spurs fans talking about when Brendan Paul played there, he wore number 3, and so they can just if you held on to a jersey, hey, repurpose it. We're back.
Yeah, you're good to go. It's Chris Paul.
All right, we probably should talk Sixers a little bit.
I wanted to hit one other one. Just because we're talking about Wemby, another young team, who I thought made a decent move. It's a good amount of money. I was also pleasantly surprised that this player hadn't played only one season in the NBA, because it's the first time we've been hearing about him, essentially, I should say, is Hartenstein going to OKC. I think that's a great move.
Yeah.
It's a good amount of money again, but we knew he was going to get paid off that playoff, performance. 3 years, $87 million deal. But him and Chet, that should be a lot of fun as well. Another younger guy to add to a young team who, again, I think a team that is young but will be in playoff scenarios next year.
OKC has, and last season, I felt like such an OKC hater because I just didn't really Like, I never really thought they were going to win, I guess. And that was
Yeah,
crazy. And that feels crazy as a number one seed, but
and
I
just
didn't
so
believe in the
young.
youth right
Yeah,
away. Like, I thought they just needed a little more seasoning. And for what it's worth, they were pretty close to beating Dallas. Like, I don't want to, they gave it quite a good run at this.
yeah,
I'm saying all that to say I have officially transitioned into OKC might win it next year. Like, I love what Sam Presti has done this season. I mean, obviously, we talked about Caruso last week. And if you
yep.
want to go back and hear about that fleecing, by all means, like tune into the last episode. But yeah, going out and getting Hartenstein is a home run move for them, I think. You know, it instantly improves them defensively. Like you said, you pair him with Chet. I don't even think his contract is that crazy when you look at, you know, the grand scheme of things.
Right, right.
I think getting, like, you essentially lost Josh Giddey and brought in Hartenstein and brought in Alex Caruso. And that's just such a massive upgrade for me. Like, Hartenstein played well in the playoffs, so that's a guy you're not worried about getting run off the floor. He, you know, for all the injuries the Knicks big men were dealing with, like, Hartenstein really wasn't one of them. Like, he was pretty
Mhm.
dependable in terms of games played. Like, he knows his role. He's going to create extra possessions. He's going to crash the boards. Like, he's going to play hard. He's going to defend. Like, that's exactly what they need. I mean, there's a reason the Knicks wanted him back as badly as they did. Obviously, you just got to pivot off that once Mikal Bridges comes into the picture. But, you know,
The just to put this in perspective, by the way, his on off per 100 possessions last year, for the entire season, the Knicks were plus 11 with him on.
you just have insane clamps lineup potentials. And like, obviously, they're not
Yeah.
going to do this all the time, but it's like you, in theory, could have Caruso, Lou Dort, and Hartenstein on the floor and then throw like Chet and SGA in there. And it's like, good luck. Like, good luck scoring on that.
They just need to, get that guy from Futurama, Clamps,
Yeah.
put him
No,
in an
the
OKC jersey. There you go. There's
um
a whole meme. Media team, hit me up.
yeah, obviously. And then like Jalen Williams is gonna have, you know, he's going into year two. We expect big things out of him. Like, there's just a lot to be excited about in OKC. And again, that's not even talking about the wealth of picks they have, but I just think everything, like, the vibes are good last year, but I think these two moves they made, like, give Sam Presti credit. Like, these are they're finishing touches, if you will. I think this team is ready to contend. Like, I'm not saying they're going to win the Western Conference next year, but I look around at I survey and I go, it's them, it's Denver, it's, you know, Minnesota maybe, but they're right there with me. Like, it's not just the Denver and their alone tier anymore. Like, I think OKC can run with anybody.
Hartenstein had a 2.6 VORP last season,
He's really
which is
good.
yeah,
Like I said, he
very
would have been a
interesting.
lock to go back to New York if they didn't trade for Bridges.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, I agree. Well, again, we talked about that last episode, and Josh Hart made a joke, "You're dead to me," when he got traded or when he signed this deal, and so it is what it is.
No, great pickup for OKC though. I like that a lot, and just the fact that it was free. Like, you can give up anything. Like, those are the best things about free agency signings, and that's what I guess transitions us into the Sixers. Is that, look, I've been back and forth on Paul George all the time, and I think the narrative has been written here for sure, in the sense that, like, I can for sure see this ending with somebody injured in the second round and us as frustrated as possible. I also, in the past few weeks, just boiled it down to, they need to go for it while Embiid is still healthy.
I
And
agree.
I think realistically, that's a 2 to 3 year window. And if you're going to go for it, getting Paul George is going for it. Like, you went out, you got arguably the best player available in the free agency market, a guy who, from an X's and O's perspective, makes all the sense in the world playing next to Maxey and Embiid. And that's just what I had to boil it down to. Listen, you don't need to tell me about all the risks here. I know about the injuries, I know about the playoff performances in the past. Like, all that is valid. But I think it's like, if they didn't go out and get Paul George or trade for Markkanen or do something like that of that nature, I think you just look around as the Sixers and you go, hey, the Celtics just won the title last year and are running everybody back. The Knicks just got better trading for Mikal Bridges. The Bucks are still around. Like, they could bounce back next year. Miami's always lurking. Like, there are other teams that just are going to compete with you in this Eastern Conference. That's not even talking about Cleveland and Orlando. Um, the Pacers, who obviously were in the conference finals last year, they're you have to go for it. I think if you're going to try to max with Embiid, you just can't afford to punt another year. And if they didn't improve this roster, that's what's going to happen. Getting Paul George is the ultimate, we're not punting signal. We're going for it. And now I think, they have to tweak out this roster a little bit. And I'm going to talk about some of these other moves. Like, obviously, I loved bringing Oubre back was a must regardless. And so I'm glad they did that. You mentioned in the intro, Andre Drummond. I love bringing Drummond back. I think it's a really quality backup center. And then to go with what's his name? The guy we just drafted from UCLA. I think they have really good potential there with the big men to back him up. Bona. And so with there's just a lot to be excited about there. Now, this roster, they need a wing. Like, that's the thing I mentioned. And again, you mentioned it with Batum earlier. Like, they're going to miss Batum big time. Like, I really, really wanted him back. I still think they need another guard. They'll probably either bring Kyle Lowry back on a minimum, maybe go after like a Tyus Jones type deal.
It's worth mentioning. NBA reported that the Sixers currently have about $65 million cap space to figure something out between the players. So we'll see what that does, look like. But to your point, Paul George, or God, I got it right this time. I keep getting him and Chris Paul because we're talking about them both this episode. George, Gordon, Kelly Oubre. It feels good. A refresher with Tobias being gone, who's going back to back to Detroit. So I think it feels good. I'm just worried about, like you already alluded to a little bit, with the depth, which has been a problem for us for a while now with injuries. So I worry about that, and I worry about, let's go 3 years down the line now, and Paul George is 3 years older on this contract, and where are we? Did we win the whole thing out of this, or where are we now, kind of deal?
Well, and that's it. You're going for it all. The deal will be fine. I'm not worried about that long term. Like, money's going up. Bringing Paul George will be fine cap wise. Like, if the team blows up, they're going to end up having to probably do some bigger moves anyway. But
to be honest, though, to counter what I was just saying, like, if the team blows up and they do have to do some moves, it does feel good that Maxey is now locked in for 5 years. So if you do got to blow it up, like, you still can build around Maxey at that point if that's the direction you got to go. But
listen, they also basically replaced Tobias Harris with Paul George. Like, that's straight up the impact on this lineup. Like, that's a massive, massive upgrade. And I shouldn't undersell how exciting that is for Sixers fans. I think that the good news here too, with it being free, is that they have a bunch of picks. Like, the Sixers have restocked the war chest a little bit, so you can still explore around the margins and try to go out and get a wing. Now, the market, I will say, is a little gross wing wise. Like, there's not really, if the Sixers are going to do anything, I think it should be a trade. Dorian Finney-Smith from Brooklyn is the one name that gets mentioned a lot. I think that makes a lot of sense. He's a guy I would like to see the Sixers go after. Everybody else on the market, I mean, again, I think there's a chance they bring like a Marcus Morris back, which I would like. Power forward wise, it's a little bleaker. Like, Marcus's brother Keith is available. We're kind of reaching at that point. That you may have to wait, and maybe that's part of it, is like, you hold on and you have the flexibility to wait a half a season and make your polishing moves around the trade deadline. Like, I don't think the Sixers are a complete team yet. But I mean, look, I like their draft. Like, I'm still high on Jared McCain. I think that was a good pick for them. There's a lot to be excited about, and they have the flexibility. Like, I don't think they're there yet. We have to see how it works. But I go, hey, you're going to give Boston, you're going to give New York a run. Like, you just can't punt years with Embiid. And I think that was what was going to be so frustrating, is it's like, look, Daryl Morey, you're on the clock a little bit here. Like, something's got to happen. You have all this cap space. Credit to him. You go out and you get Paul George, you're off the clock officially. Polish the roster off, but like, that's, you're delivering. You delivered on what you said you were going to do. And so you got to give him credit. I would love to trade for Markkanen too, of course. I think that's a fantasy, and they'd be well into the second apron at that point. Like, it is possible. There is a way to do it. it's just really going to take a lot of tinkering. The other thing with the Sixers too is like it seems like they're going to move on from Paul Reed. Like somebody is going to go pick up B-ball Paul. If that's true, salute to him. Obviously he's been a folk hero here for the past few years. But I mean, with going to get Drummond, even with drafting, like I said, it kind of feels like the writing is on the wall there a little bit. They wanted to get a more traditional big behind Joel.
I get that
Drummond
too.
was good for us.
I saw that they were in conversation with Markelle Fultz too, which would be kind of interesting at a backup point guard-ish type role.
I don't put anything there because it was well that was from what's his name, like Vin the Insider or whatever.
Yeah, who is that?
Nobody credible.
Okay. I've been seeing that tweet or that account tweet, and I'm like, who is this?
That account's been dying on that hill for a while, and it keeps popping up on my For You tab.
Okay, same.
No, man. If it's not, look, unless it's a player themselves or one of their families, because obviously they have a little fun with it too. But I've got a list that I follow, and it's got like Woj and Shams.
Yeah. If it's not those guys, then
and Ramona Shelburne and like all the Mark Stein and like all the top like NBA actual newsbreakers. If it ain't on that list, I don't believe it.
By the way, just because, Keith is in that realm of people that talk basketball, he started a podcast and does a lot of free agency. Obviously, he does a lot of the money, salary cap talk.
He's doing the show with Trevor, isn't he? He's doing the front office show.
Yes, but they've been streaming it live, which I've found interesting.
Cool.
Yeah. So I've been watching that at work.
I've been doing the I know they've been in the spaces a lot too. Shouts to
similar idea.
Yeah, I mean, Keith, listen, you want to talk about the second apron. Like, I mean, we obviously were kind of overdue to have Keith on anyway, but
might be time.
That's different. Like, I mean, he'll know way more. They'll know way more on that front than we will. I do not pretend to be a cap expert.
So with all the Sixers stuff, I ask you, where do you rank them in the NBA tiers now? If you were to put all teams, first is definitely going to win a championship, last is not going to do it at all. Where are the Sixers now if you were to start tiering them out?
I think they're an A tier team, but I think there's an A plus tier team. Like I think Boston is A plus right now. They're running it back. I think you could argue Denver is A plus. I think they're kind of like third in the East to me right now. I have to see it on paper before I call them better than the Knicks. I think the Knicks are just a little deeper right now.
Sure.
I think Boston is better. Like, as much as I hate saying that, like, I still think Boston is better. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
I just won.
But after that, like, I mean, there are a few Western teams I think are probably better than the Sixers are too. Like, I think OKC is probably there. I think you could argue Minnesota. I think you could argue Dallas fans are going to be annoyed that I don't mention Dallas, but like, I don't know. Dallas doesn't scare me as much, as bad as that sounds. And that's kind of how I feel about Milwaukee. Like Milwaukee, you could argue there too, but like Milwaukee's coached by Doc Rivers. And like, I just don't, I don't believe in Milwaukee after last year. I really don't at all.
So would it surprise you then we'll give them the shout out, DraftKings, they currently, odds-wise, have the Sixers as second best to win a championship next year.
I'm not surprised by that from a betting perspective. I think once you get the bigger name there, but I mean, who are they with? Like, are they grouped with anybody?
No, actually, they're standalone in their number. So Boston's number one at plus 295. Sixers are second at plus 800, which is still a huge, that's a huge jump from 295 to 800. Behind them is a pairing. OKC and the Nuggets are 850.
Okay.
Behind them, solo by themselves, the Knicks at 950. Then after that, it is a tie with the Timberwolves and Mavericks at plus 1,000. Then it's the Bucks at 1,100. After that, you start getting to 300, which is actually Lakers the next, which is I feel some kind of way about. But then Suns. Yeah.
So I want to do a couple quick hitters there because you brought up a few teams. Lakers, I love bringing in Connect in the draft. Besides that, pretty horrendous offseason.
I mean, they had the biggest draft pick of the entire decade in Bronny James, which, by the way, just because we're on it, in DraftKings players specials right now, okay? For the 2024-2025 season, the only thing you can bet on right now are Bronny James specials. And that makes me want to die.
All right. Well, you also could you also could just open my my Venmo is open.
Dude. But
So if
think
you
about
want to
this.
do that too,
Hold on. But let's talk about this for a second because I hate on it, and then I see this one right here.
Ooh, hang on, my bad. Just not to interrupt. We have breaking news on the Drive and Dish NBA podcast.
Wait, hold on. I think there's a soundboard on this thing. Let me see if I can.
You gotta hit me.
I don't know.
I
don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna find it real quick. I don't know what it was in here somewhere. You keep going. If I find it, we'll backtrack.
No, it's fitting that we held off the Sixers talk because the Sixers actually just made a good move. They have finalized a deal with Caleb Martin coming from Miami on the roster, filling a need, playoff experience. If you can't tell, I am excited about this move. I didn't think we'd have the money to do it. I wondered if some other team wouldn't pay him a little more. I think Caleb Martin is a big-time impactful player, and I think this is a great pickup for the Sixers. Yeah, you see it, baby. Hit it one more time for me.
You want a horn? You want clap or what?
No, hit me with the horn. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. The clap is cool, but the clap is like all for that's like when you start the show and stuff. Like I don't feel like that represents us being fired up enough. Like the horn is like that's like our, you know, it's like the Funk Flex bomb drop almost.
Oh, we had drum rolls in it. We could have done a whole build up thing. All right, but just so hear me out on this for a second. Do you at any point think Bronny James will make 4+ threes in any regular season game of 2024-2025?
Okay, I'm not going to put my profile up, but my Venmo is there. It's wide open. If you would like to just go ahead and find me, I'm in a suit on it. So you tell me it's not because my dad has it too. We have the same name.
Oh, hey, listen, that's okay if he gets it. I mean, at the end, still getting to the family.
Yeah, but my dad has some money. That's cool.
Because if he does, the odds on that are currently plus 800. So that is plus 800, and that is the same odds the Sixers have of winning the entire championship.
Okay, well, let's be honest. I might put the money on Bronny then. They probably got the same odds, honestly. Like, Bronny might make 4 threes. I don't know. Crazier things have happened.
There's like 80 games. Oh,
he might get some garbage time minutes and go crazy. Like, you never know.
That's wild to me that those are the only player specials. The highest one, by the way, for him is plus 3,500 for Bronny James to record a double-double at any time during the season.
Yeah, I mean, that feels right.
I mean, he's going to spend most of his games in the G League, isn't he? I thought the Lakers said that he's going to do most down there. So
for sure. Yeah, like
whatever.
I really think he's good. With the Mavs, I will say, because we kind of brushed over this earlier, I love the Najee Marshall signing for them from New Orleans. I think he's really underrated. Like, he's one of those guys that I think is going to impact from more minutes. Like, all his advanced numbers are good. He's athletic. He defends. So I think that's a good pickup for them for sure. Other quickies, I love the KCP pickup for Orlando. I think KCP's a winner. They need shooting desperately. I think that obviously fills a need there. He's a good defender. I think he can kind of give some veteran like mentorship as well to the younger guys.
Joe Ingles going to play with Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley in Minnesota on a 1-year deal. We'll see, but it's just cool to get those guys back together.
I appreciate you sneaking that in there for Joe. I respect.
Yeah.
Jonathan Isaac re-signed on a 5-year deal. That's pretty team friendly. Obviously, a lot of incentives there. And then they maxed Franz. Franz is back now too, so that was a no-brainer. I think that had to be done. The other ones that the other move that to kind of watch, and it's not done yet, but somebody to watch is DeMar DeRozan. The Bulls are pretty clearly, it looks like, are going to move on from him. And with DeMar DeRozan, there's been a lot of buzz around Sacramento. I think that'd be a really good pickup for the Kings. Like, that makes so much sense to me if they go out and get him. And I think you could move, some sort of deal around Herter and Harrison Barnes, and then you throw maybe a few picks in there, and I think that could get it done. DeRozan has basically said, like, I'm done with Chicago. Let's get this figured out. And he's probably, like I said, obviously Chicago's gonna be looking to move Levine too. We talked about, but DeRozan's probably the best name on the market left overall. I think that would really that would boost Sacramento. I think that would really knock them up a tier. And, I'm just thinking of a lineup of like Fox and Monk and DeRozan and having Sabonis there. Like that feels like you're onto something. You got Keegan at 4. I don't know. I think that's a real logical move for the Kings. I'd like to see them take that swing. Um, there's one other move I feel like, oh, yeah, right. And for the Celtics, we briefly talked about that, but I feel like we should mention that Tatum signed the biggest deal in NBA history, 5-year max. Everybody saw it coming. I agree. Derek White got paid as well. Everybody saw it coming. But, Jason Tatum in that last year is going to make $71 million a season. We are truly, I guess, to round out free agency, we just are. We're in unprecedented territory. Like NBA money is reaching MLB money. That MLB has always been the high point. We good for the guys, man. Guys are getting paid.
I'll say, dude, it must be nice. Must be nice.
Like we last episode we talked about there are only a few guys making 50 plus, and like we're gonna be, like I said, Tatum in 5 years gonna be at 70, and you gotta feel like there's gonna be somebody, some Wemby contract down the line, when all the OKC younger guys, when Ant signs again, like. New era, man. Welcome to the NBA. You gotta love it. Everybody's getting the bag.
All right.
Who's balling, who's falling? Our NBA version of the stock market. We always like to start with the good before the bad. So, Justin, I will start with you this week. Who is balling?
I'm going with the Olympic qualifying tournament semifinals, which are happening today. So as of listening this, you'll already kind of know what's going on, but we've got some great ones happening. Finland and Spain, Bahamas and Lebanon, Puerto Rico, Mexico, Italy and Lithuania. But the real one that I think people are really tuning into or want to see is Greece versus Slovenia, which is Luka versus Giannis. That's going to happen. Obviously, they've faced off a bunch of their careers. We could pull up those stats if you wanted to. They faced each other 9 times, but it's worth mentioning the last time they played, which was February 3rd. Giannis dropped 48. Luka dropped 40. The Bucks did win 129-117. So that'll be a must-watch basketball game tonight. Brazil already beat the Philippines today as of recording this. So congratulations to them. They won 71-60.
All right. Yeah, big win for Brazil. But no, you're right. That's obviously must-see TV. Both those guys love suiting up for their national teams. I saw a video that came out because obviously USA is getting ready to go and they're into camp and all that.
Yeah.
And I saw LeBron and KD's there too, but like I saw LeBron and Steph arriving together, and Steph just like, dude, he lets out this laugh, and I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna beat everybody by 35. Like that first step to LeBron alley-oop is like gonna break the space.
You're like, oh crap, here we go. Yeah, man. I mean, it would be very surprising if they don't win, right?
Yeah, of course it would be. This team is like the USA team is loaded. It just makes sense. Everybody is motivated. Like you also just a lot of times with the USA is like, what's the motivation factors that weren't off? But like they're not going to be lacking that this year because it's like for LeBron, for Steph and KD, like this is probably their last Olympic go around. And so yeah, they want to go out on top. Like they've all won golds before. End this on a high note. Of course, this is I know KD's the all-time Olympic scorer, but and I'll run this by you here since we're talking USA hoops. I will always still though associate Carmelo Anthony with being the top USA hooper for me.
Yeah, I guess so. I feel like I don't know. For whatever reason, when I think of USA hoops, I don't like think of one specific person. I just kind of group it as one big just USA team. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to explain that. But for whatever reason, when we look at foreign teams, like who are we playing? I do go, all right, who's the main person on there? Is it Chris Dort? Is it Dario? Is it Luca? Is it, who's on the team that I know that we're playing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which it's worth mentioning, Dort and Dario are playing today. The Dominican Republic and Croatia play each other tonight.
I don't remember if they had. I don't remember if I said this on the show or not, or if I just said this to you off the mic. But the one country that, if it was still a country that truly could give the U.S. run, I think, is if Yugoslavia was still a country.
Yeah, you were saying that. Yeah.
So like Slovenia, Croatia, Serbia, Macedonia, all those countries, Montenegro. Like at that point, you've got Jokic, you've got Luka, you've got all sorts of quality role players like up and down the line. Like you could run Vooch, you could run Nurkic, you could run Dario would be there playing for Croatia.
Did he come back to the Sixers, or was that just a rumor people were starting?
Rumor. He's been a target. He's still a free agent.
Yeah.
He's probably one of the better ones out there. Like Dario played well for Golden State last year.
Yeah.
He'll probably I would like a reunion in Philly if he wants to come back on a flyer, but I think he'll get picked up for sure. He's a good player.
Yeah, I just wasn't. I think that might have been one of those tweets that I was like, oh, Dario, I hadn't thought about bringing him back, but yeah, it'd be fun.
I am so excited about that Caleb Martin signing. Like that literally, I don't want to say it completely changed my outlook just like that, but like that is such a good fit. I was really like quiet, and I worry about Miami guys outside of Miami.
Yeah,
but I kind of like.
I mean, what's his name? What's his name in Cleveland was doing good last year, right?
Max Strus? Yeah, Max Strus.
Yeah,
Strus. He had a good year for them last year.
It was quieter, less people talked about it, but it was still a good season.
Cleveland's another team to watch now too. We didn't even mention it, but Donovan Mitchell's back. Like his contract officially signed, which great for them because obviously putting the rumors to bed. Like enough with the Donovan Mitchell's going to New York conversation. But they I do wonder too. Now you got to watch Garland, watch some of the younger guys. Like you wonder if they'll make some decisions there. So I think they're a team to watch. So I'm cheating a little bit this week, and I'm doing a hybrid. Mine is both Ballin and Fallen.
Okay.
And so that's the Pistons hiring JB Bickerstaff. So obviously Ballin for JB because he's got a head coaching job. Like you're back in, you were on Cleveland last year. Got a job here now in Detroit, replacing Monty Williams. We know what Detroit is. They're rebuilding.
Yeah.
They're kind of doing this hybrid thing. Like they brought Tobias Harrison, but I think that's also to like lead the locker room and stuff like that. They brought Cade back on the max. So like that's all locked up and look, you're not going to be very good. You're just trying to win some games here. And build some talent, get a high pick, even though it's probably going to end up being 5 no matter what, because Detroit's apparently just cursed in the lottery. The reason I'm falling on this is I don't know. This is such a retread hire for me. Like JB Bickerstaff, I just feel like the book has been written on at this point. Like we've seen him be interim coaches. We saw him be a head coach in Memphis. We saw him be a head coach in Cleveland. Like he's not a bad coach by any means, but I don't know. Like it just always feels like he's kind of limited. Like last year's the furthest they got in the second round, and Cleveland was pretty ready to move on. Like there were a lot of people talking about coaching was an issue there. I don't know. Like, I just feel like they could have gone and maybe you wanted to get it a little more stable after how just poor Monty did last year.
And that's exactly what it feels like to me.
But that's just so safe. Like, I don't know. Go for somebody a little splashy. Like because you're in a situation where everybody's so young and there's no expectation. So it's like, why not try to swing for the fences on a coaching hire?
Yeah, I don't know. I almost backtrack is like, I feel like that's what you tried to do and it didn't work. So now let's go safe and at least get a competent team back together, because the more misses you have, the more times you're going to be missing out on these young guys that you're trying to develop. You're just going to keep throwing them off. So
yeah,
I'd rather just get somebody that in the next 2, 3 years, 4 years can get some wins, can get some good basketball out there and start developing the guys the correct way.
Yeah, and I mean, look, his career record is 255 and 290, but it's a little disingenuous because his last 3 seasons in Cleveland have all been winning seasons.
Yeah.
But it's just been more about the playoffs than anything, I think. But it's definitely safer. I will say there is something about that. Like you want Cade Cunningham to develop. Like you don't want to run the risk of stunting that a little more. But yeah, I don't know. Just kind of meh for me, and so that's why I put it as fallen.
I get it. My fallen is going to be the NBA Summer League, which actually starts next week, the 12th through the 22nd. I think that's also Shark Week.
I thought Shark Week was like 2 weeks ago. Where'd you talk? Did you make a Shark Week joke to me?
No, Shark Week. Oh, Shark Week starts tomorrow.
No, so that means you posted the meme, right? About how come Shark Weeks are like when how can you get bit when they're all on TV that week?
Yeah. So starting tomorrow, it's safe to go in the ocean because all the sharks are going to be on TV.
Great.
Which another random stupid fun fact, because I'm on the radio here in Jacksonville, Nassau County had a unprovoked shark attack last week. The guy got bit in the arm. He's all right, but he had to get a lot of stitches, obviously. And so there is a thing called the Shark Attack Files, like the X-Files for sharks, that has been compiling unprovoked shark attack data
Uh-huh.
since 1882. How many shark attacks do you think have happened in Nassau County specifically since 1882?
I feel like you're about to blow my mind, and it's gonna be a lot lower than people think it is. What's it gonna be, like 6?
It is 9 total.
That's crazy. And I mean,
Yeah.
just because like Amelia Island, like for those who don't know
Yeah.
Florida, Amelia Island is a pretty big beach area. Like there's a
Yeah.
large portion of that is but you know how it goes. They all go down to New Smyrna.
So, but not even that. You go south to St. John's and Duval County.
Yeah.
Both have had over 45 attacks. So that's crazy.
I mean, not to get too deep. I mean, Duval's got more people, obviously, with it
Yeah.
being Jacksonville. So you do wonder about that.
Yeah.
And even St. John's, I would say St. John's is more like with St. Augustine alone, it's more populated just along the beach. But even still, like you got a few others that are kind of close. They're Ponte Vedras and St. John's.
Well, and Ponte Vedra would make sense because like those are private beaches for the most part too. You know,
That's
like,
fine. Bite the billionaires. They're fine.
They can buy a new
bite
arm.
them. Leave the fishermen and the kids alone.
Yeah, they can go buy a new arm, man. I'm not worried about it. Yeah, they're gonna lose a leg and go sit in their $19 million mansion. Actually, a house did just sell here in Jacksonville for 24 mil, which is the most, or in Ponte Vedra.
Oh, okay. I'm like, where? Like
on the beach in Ponte Vedra, kind of like by Sawgrass, but yeah, 24 mil, which I think was the most set a record. But either way, so watch Sark Week this week and then switch over to Summer League for the 12th through 22nd, who, according to Summer League, the most promoting player that you can put on your billboard is Bronny James. So
we
that's
already
why
knew that was going to happen, right?
I mean, sure, but like literally put anybody else that was picked before him.
You're trying to sell tickets. It's LeBron's kid. What do you mean?
I mean, sure, but dude, I don't know.
I hear you. It's the nepotism argument all over again. Like, I hear you. And in a dream world, you're right. But like, I think a casual is probably going to buy a ticket to go watch LeBron James Jr. more than they might over Rasheer, which is crazy because he was number 1 overall pick.
I mean, a casual in that sense, but sure. But if you're a fan of any of the teams that picked in the first 5 picks, you'd probably like to see your player featured on that, you know?
Yeah,
like I guarantee you
Where's
Simmons
Alex Sarr?
Right, I guarantee you Ben Simmons was on that damn, poster back in the day.
Ben Simmons had a lot more hype than any of these top picks.
I know.
I hear you. Like, I'm just playing devil's advocate. I don't fully disagree with you. Like, I hear you. It's where it's like, why are we talking about a 55 pick like this? But that's also just like, it's LeBron's kid. We all kind of knew that this was going to happen, right?
I know. And now they're already talking about how he might have signed a deal so that he could play with both of his kids and, whatever.
Oh, with Bryce? Well, dude, they're saying Bryce is a better prospect. That was the other thing. That was crazy. They said Bryce might like actually be a better pro.
Yeah, but that's what they're saying is like if you look at it, if LeBron can, I think it's 4 more years or something. If LeBron can make it 4,
Bryce posted the the meme of LeBron in the pool where he's like smiling.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
Bryce posted that the other day, which is real funny.
Good. Yeah, he can. Good. Troll your dad. Gotta keep him humble.
Should we jump into some immaculate grid?
Yeah, hold on. I gotta pull it up.
Yeah, that's all right. I can filibuster a little bit. Listen, it's been a crazy episode. We knew it would be a lot of free agency stuff going on. I mean, this is always one of my more. I'm glad the way it broke, honestly, because we got a bunch last week, like with there being, early on with the Murray trade and with the Mikal Bridges trade. Like that was a good double whammy to get us all started. But we're gonna breeze through this.
I'm pissed off, dude.
I was gonna say, like, oh man, I look at this. I was like, this would be the easiest speed run of all time. So again, watch the Immaculate Grids on YouTube. Search Driving Dish NBA podcast. For the podcast listeners, we got the Spurs as our left column. We got Born Outside the U.S. 50 States in D.C., our favorite. And we got Hall of Fame. And then our rows from top to bottom, you've got the Magic, you've got the Jazz, and you've got Defensive Player of the Year.
I already know the player connections.
Yeah, I am already kind of burning through these pretty quick as well in my head. I'm not gonna lie, one of the more fun ones was on the 4th of July. They did an America category.
Oh,
but it's more of just like, obviously everybody's gonna get it, but it's like, how rare can you make it? It's like, who is the most obscure player on your team?
That's what I like, man. And maybe we will get a little bit like that with the Hall of Fame and Born Outside the 50, but it's still you're kind of pigeonholed to a certain amount of players,
like absolutely. But all
So
right, start off, Just who you leaning for?
all right, so for Orlando and Spurs, and probably I pretty actually definitely know it works for Orlando and born outside the 50 states, Turkaloo.
Yeah, Turkaloo definitely works there. For sure, born outside there. I was gonna say you maybe want to save him for that because the another one that works, I know for sure 100% works for Magic and Spurs is Jonathan Simmons. I
Yeah.
don't know if you remember Jonathan Simmons paying for like the G League tryout and then working his way up.
Yeah.
He's
He
on the
was
Sixers for a little bit. He's on the Magic
yeah,
for a little
a
bit.
great, like, an amazing story. What about Mario Hezonja? He would work for born outside the 50 states, right?
He would definitely work more out. He was Croatian, I believe, so he definitely
Yeah.
works for born outside.
So I guess between those 3, who do we think is gonna be the least in each category?
I think Simmons will be for the Magic and Spurs.
Simmons?
Yeah. Yeah,
Jonathan Simmons,
Jonathan. Yep.
okay. 10%.
Man, damn.
Okay. So then Turkaloo or Mario?
Turkaloo's gonna be high. Mario will be lower. The other one that works, it's easy for them is Goga Belitze, who's on the but he's on the team now.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
kind of my thing is where it's like he's from Georgia, but and not that Georgia. But more no Cheese Bowl, Georgia. That one.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
have you ever had Georgian food?
No. Is it
It's
good?
really good. I tried in Philly for the first time. It's
Okay.
unbelievable. High key.
Try it.
Like I'm kind of they were keeping it secret from me for a little bit. But
Yeah.
I would say I think Mario will be lower than Hito because Hito was good, man. Like that's the thing is like he was really good on the Magic. He was on the finals team.
All right, Mario Hezonja, it is 2%. That's
2%.
good.
Wow. See, I'm only surprised it's only 2% just because he was just because he was a high pick.
He was so hyped up.
He was. I thought he was going to be
He
good.
was
I was
so
incredibly wrong
hyped
about
up.
Hezonja.
We saw him in Summer League.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was going to be one of them ones for me.
So, I know for a fact Jazz Spurs Rudy Gay works. I feel like it'll probably be high.
Yep.
So I'll keep thinking. Oh, Boris Diaw, baby.
Boris Diaw does work.
Boris Diaw.
Boris Diaw works. Richard Jefferson works low key.
Oh yeah. Okay.
He had a few games of each of those teams.
Boris Diaw would work Jazz outside the 50 states, and I bet that's low.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to say that's pretty low. Yeah, because Boris Diaw's French. There's a bunch of people like Rubio works, obviously.
Joe Ingles works.
Joe Ingles works. Dante Exum works too, low key.
Oh, Dante Exum. Oh my god.
I might use Exum at the Jazz, dude. Exum kind of had a bounce back. And I want to use
Didn't Exum just go to the Clippers?
No, he's on Dallas. He was on the title team this past year. Or not the title team, the team that went to the title.
Oh, who am I thinking of? So I thought
you mean he's a free agent.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think so.
I think he did too then. My apologies.
Let me confirm that just because I don't think so. Someone went to the I'll look it up. Someone went
the Mavs. Derrick Jones Jr. did.
No, it may not have been Mavs specific, but someone that I group in my head with Dante Exum went to the Clippers.
Yeah, they brought Harden back, Batum back, Mo Bamba went.
Let me go back to the drawing board on that one, see if I can find who I was thinking of.
I would say for Jazz and Spurs though, I would say do Diaw over Rudy Gay. I think Rudy Gay is going to be really high, and Diaw played it with Utah at the end of his career.
Do Diaw here, not 50 states?
Yeah, because I think we have others that we can use there that'll be fine.
Okay, 16.
16, damn.
Wow.
I mean, I do think for what it's worth that Rudy Gay would have been. I think Rudy Gay is probably the number one answer there.
Yeah.
Yeah, born outside. I mean, like you said, you got Rubio, you got Exum, you got Ingles, you got Gobert, you got Andre Karolinko, you got trying to think of any of those other, like Boozer is American, Al Jefferson is American, Darren Williams is American.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Let's see if I can find
outside.
I'm going down the rabbit hole here. I'm going to see if I can find this person.
Spurs DPOY. This is a trick, I think, because I'm pretty sure, and there's one award that Tim Duncan never won, and I'm pretty sure it's DPOY, and it's crazy because he was on like an obscene amount of all defensive teams where it's like, how did he not win at least one?
Yeah.
But I remember because that tripped me one time when I was playing solo. And so I think David Robinson did win it though, for sure, for San Antonio. And I don't know.
Kawhi definitely won it.
Kawhi did win it too. You're right. Actually. Yeah, good call. Kawhi definitely won it. The other one is
David Robinson, Kawhi, and that's probably
it would have been Wemby. Wemby didn't win it this year. Wemby will be there eventually. Right. Wemby didn't win it this year.
Yeah, there's no one else. Could there have been a player that won it on another team? And that like did no, Marc Gasol won it, right? Not Paul Gasol.
Did Mark win it?
I think so.
I don't think he won DPOY.
Yeah, with the Grizzlies. Didn't he win it one year?
He won DPOY?
I think so. I'm like fairly certain he did, but I don't think he was ever on the Spurs. So
no, he definitely wasn't on the Spurs, so it wouldn't matter. But
yeah, it wouldn't matter.
If he won DPOY, he would work for Born Outside US. And
I'm like very, very confident that Mark won with the grit and grind era.
It would have been with them, yeah. So, man, yeah, you know what? If you're confident, go for it. But I think we should use it then. It won't work for the Spurs. I'm 100%. Spurs is going to be chalky. It sucks, but like it's going to be David Rock or Kawhi, I guess too.
Did Joakim Noah ever win? He's foreign, isn't he?
I don't think he's foreign. I'm pretty sure he's born in America.
I thought he was something different.
Who do you think will be lower out of Kawhi and David Robinson?
I mean, I feel like that's tough. I feel like you go both ways because Kawhi's more recent and obviously like right now a name.
Oh, dude, know what you do? You put Kawhi there in the Spurs spot, and then you put David Robinson in the DPOY in the Hall of Fame spot.
Let's do that.
Everybody's going to use him for the Spurs.
Yeah, let's do that. Kawhi Leonard here, 27. Yeah. And then
David Robinson will be higher then. And I think mad people are going to get Duncan. That'll claim a lot of people for Tim Duncan.
For a second. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That works. I'm cool with that. All right. I mean, Hall of Fame for the Magic and the Jazz are both pretty easy. I mean, all of these are pretty easy, actually. Like, where do you want to go? Do you want to do Marc Gasol for DPOY and Born Outside?
You made me nervous on it.
All right, then we'll come back to it.
I mean, I think so, but you made me nervous.
Just do it. It'll be him. Powell didn't win it for sure. Mark might have.
Yep.
Okay. Hell yeah.
Let's go, baby. Yeah. I was like fairly confident he got it, but oof. Holy hell.
Marc Gasol. Yep. 2013 or 2012, 2013 with the Grizz. Good call, Just.
Our graduating year from college.
15 years ago, low key.
Oh, stop that.
My bad.
That's gross. That's gross.
Yeah, wait. It's wild when I tell my law school classmates that.
Right. Dwight Howard never. Oh, he wouldn't have been outside the U.S. anyway.
Dwight he didn't play for the Jazz anyway.
Yeah. I was still thinking defensive player. All right. So Jazz Born Outside. Like we've got a ton of options, obviously.
I think Exum is the lowest that I can think of right now. I mean, he got drafted there, but like that was a while ago at this point.
Exum. I would say between like Exum and
Ingles is more obvious. Like Ingles was awesome too, of course.
Yeah, everyone talks.
Like, he played a lot there,
and everyone talks about how he was Australian. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Dante Exum 3%. We'll take that. All right, so now we just got Hall of Fame and we're done.
Yeah. So Orlando, the easy one is Shaq.
Shaq.
And I don't honestly really know. Like, Tracy McGrady got inducted to the Hall of Fame, right?
I'm pretty sure.
I think he just got inducted. Like, maybe it might have been this year, actually. I think about it.
But out of those two, I feel like both are going to be high. Sadly, we might not have other options.
I don't think. Well, Dwight's not in it yet. Like, Dwight will be, but he's not in it yet. I don't think Penny made the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
And I don't think there's no one else on that like there's no one else on that title team in 2009 or the team that went to the finals that would be Hall of Fame, I think, other than Dwight. Like Turkoglu's not. Like Jameer Nelson and Rashard Lewis and all those other guys. Just they're all very good, but they're all not Hall of Fame players.
You know who I was thinking about, by the way, for the trade that I said Exum? Chris Dunn is who I was thinking. He is leaving the Jazz to go to the Clippers. That the name just finally popped back. I found it.
I don't know, man. Penny's a nominee, I think, but I don't think he's in it.
Okay.
And at that point, between Shaq and between T-Mac, I think T-Mac is significantly lower.
All right, we go T-Mac. Oh, I guess I
that would have been funny.
I wonder if it does.
It should for some.
Nope.
Todd McCullough, classic. Wow. Philly legend, Big Red.
Tracy McGrady, 6%. Okay, good call on that.
Shaq would have smoked that then. That's got to be all Shaq.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. And so for the last one, Utah Jazz Hall of Fame, we know the two obvious ones.
Yeah.
Karl Malone and John Stockton. I think where we walk it off, though, is a guy who has low-key sneakily become a basketball immaculate grid, like heavily used player for me.
Okay.
And he played in a lot of places, but I feel like we should actually intentionally use him once, and that is Adrian Dantley. He's a Hall of Famer. He's great in the 70s. Scored a lot of points.
He stopped playing basketball the year I was born.
Yeah, your birthday's this year, so
yeah, but 91, yeah,
not 90 birthday like me.
No,
we'll walk it off. I'm 100% playing for the Jazz.
Bam,
the other one, actually, now that I think about it, I think Pete Maravich would have worked too. Pistol Pete, that would have been a good one.
Yeah.
Jazz were still New Orleans then at the time, but it doesn't matter. Okay, not bad.
7 Hall of Fame options.
That's crazy. I genuinely would like.
All right,
think of 2.
Vince Carter.
Oh, Vince just got in. That's right. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Patrick Ewing.
End of his career. Yep. Good call.
Grant Hill.
I forgot Grant Hill was then. Wow.
T-Mac.
Just got in too.
T-Mac.
Okay.
Ben Wallace.
Wow. I would have never gotten a billion years of Ben Wallace playing in Orlando.
Played played a whole season from 99 to 2000.
That's incredible. Wow.
Dominique Wilkins.
Okay, another end of career guy.
Also, yeah, only played 27 games for him, and then Shaq.
Damn, good look. Yeah, Ewing, I should know. I do actually remember Ewing played there.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is his last spot. He played in like Orlando and Toronto. No, Olajuwon played in Toronto. Just kidding.
9 for Jazz is kind of a lot too.
That I believe they've been around longer. But all right, can you scroll down? Let's see who the most popular answers were.
Oh, hold on. Show summary. Sorry.
All right, so most popular answers for Magic and Spurs was Tracy McGrady. For Magic born outside the U.S., and it was Franz Wagner. For Magic Hall of Fame, it was Shaq. For Spurs and Jazz, like we thought, Rudy Gay. Lauri Markkanen for Jazz and born outside the U.S. John Stockton for Jazz Hall of Fame. Spurs DPOY David Robinson, DPOY born outside the U.S., of course, the reigning champ Rudy Gobert, and DPOY Hall of Fame Michael Jordan. Probably not a surprise there.
No,
just to recap, ours one last time. We got Jonathan Simmons for Magic and Spurs, Mario Hezonja for Magic born outside the U.S., T-Mac, Tracy McGrady for Magic Hall of Fame, Spurs and Jazz, Boris Diaw, Dante Exum for Jazz and born outside the U.S., Adrian Dantley for Jazz Hall of Fame, Kawhi Leonard, Spurs DPOY, Marcus Gasol DPOY born outside the U.S., and David Robinson DPOY and Hall of Fame. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. Appreciate you guys as always. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, anywhere you find a podcast, you can find us.
Yep. And like we said, we're on YouTube. You can watch a video version of the podcast. Just search Drive and Dish NBA and subscribe. That way you know when new episodes are coming out.